Hi guys, Thogrey here with a new video, and this video will be my Season 5 tier list for Wotlk Classic, because now it's going to be Season 5, and we're going to talk about only the BGs, so it's a BG tier list video, and yeah, if you want to have fun and you want to be optimal in BGs, you can pick those specs. Of course, it doesn't really say that your spec is bad, it just means like some specs are just better than others in BG form. And yeah, let's talk right away. You see the DPSs, tanks, whatever in this tier list. We are going to cover it all in all. I think the hardest part is to be not biased, because again, I do play Feral, I do like Feral, but I don't know if it's going to be very, very strong in BGs. Well, I do know it's strong in BGs, but is it as strong or stronger or weaker depending on the specs? And that's the real question, right? So let's talk about Feral. Feral for me is, it's a great flag carrier. So basically in Wars and Gold you're going to have a good time, and for me, just because of that, it is a tier spec. By itself it can kill people 1v1, it can do 1v2s because you can have a proc, again based on the combo points. If you have a 5 combo points, you're proccing your Ferocious Bite, you will have a proc to get a instant Cyclone. So basically you can easily do a 1v2 by cycling off the off target, and then you have enough time to either kill your target or even run away. So I really like Ferals, and for me it is an A tier spec in BGs because it is very mobile, it has great off healing if you really so desire, you have Cyclone, you have the damage, you are stealthed, you can defend bases very well, but you can also flag carrier for the BG for your team and be optimal and very good. Um, in IMO, I think it's one of the best flag carriers, but I guess it's understandable that a protection warrior or protection paladin might be as good or even better depending on their tankiness. But I do like my feral druids. BM Hunter. So in BGs, it's very, very strong because are not really reliable. Like you're not. Nobody's going to ask you to actually silence the target, right? Nobody's going to ask you to do X, Y, Z, CC wise, or even damage wise. But your consistent damage is very interesting because you can just send your pet to be like your Bishop Wrath and like obliterate a caster. By itself, BM Hunter is very good in the first season. Season 5, actually, BM Hunters are great. But the more resilience there is, the less damage your pets will do, and the less interesting BMs become after a few seasons. But the first season, it is very good, and that's why for me it is, I would say, around a B tier. B tier is not bad, it is average, but it is because for me, hunters in general are very, very squishy, and they are prone to be killed by rogues, right? Your deterrents don't really do anything versus a cheap shot from a sub rogue. So that's for me a B tier spec. Survivor Hunter, I would say it's the same. It's also a B tier spec. The damage is really there. Again, the problem is you are very, very prone to get killed, and you don't have the advantage of having a silence, like for example a Marksmanship Hunter. And for me, Marksmanship Hunter are A tier because they are very good at CC. They have kill potential with the silence. They have chimera shot to disarm targets. You can slow easier with your Marksmanship Hunter than a Survival Hunter or a BM. In general, I think the damage is very, very nice, very high, and your range is also very high, very nice. I would say that it is very squishy for sure because Survival Hunter is a bit more tanky than Marksmanship Hunter, but I do rate Marksmanship Hunter very, very high in general. I think in arenas it is going to be very good, but in BGs as well, I think you can have a lot of fun just by playing the Marksmanship Hunter. Protection Paladin, I think it is a S tier spec in BGs because it is very, very hard to kill. Like it's like season 5, with the amount of health you can get as a protection paladin, the amount of resilience you can farm as a protection paladin, being very, very prone to not get killed instantly is also a very good perk to have. You have a great silence as well. your damage is not half bad. You have great off healing as well, and in general you're just annoying to kill. And being annoying to kill in a BG form is actually very good on a few BGs. I'm thinking about Arati Basin. I'm thinking about Eye of the Storm sometimes, depending on the comp that you're playing. Of course, you can't really decide about the comp, but I think you can have a great time as a protection paladin. So that's why for me it's a S tier spec. Assassination Rogue, I think it's a uh, I do rate Subtlety Rogue higher, so for me it's a B tier spec. The only reason I'm saying it's a B tier spec is it is very strong, but it needs to ramp up. You need to put a lot of dots. You can play an Envenom's playstyle where your Envenom do a lot of damage, but you do need a few times to actually have the opportunity to one-shot targets, right? I think Assassination Rogues are just less flexible than a Subtlety Rogue. And for me, Subtlety Rogue, for example, is an S tier spec. It has huge damage. It has the possibility to defend the nodes, but also retake nodes by ghosting. But also you can defend the Warsong Gulch flag very easily because, again, it's not like Classic where people can just pop a potion and you're safe. In Wrath of the Lich King, not a lot of people are going to run those immunity potions, right? And I think as a rogue you can really do a lot of damage, and in general you'll have a blast by playing it. Am I going to play Subtlety Rogue? Nah, but I can understand why people are playing Subtlety Rogue. They are very fun with Shadowlands, and those ambushes do hurt, especially since the resilience levels are really not high at the moment. You can still crit for Fairy Eye, so that's why for me Subtlety Rogue are S tier. Protection Warrior, I think it's A tier. It's very annoying to kill, first and foremost, but also the damage is quite insane, especially in Season 5 where you don't have the levels of Armor Pen to combat Protection Warriors, but also to be super good as an Arms Warrior in BGs. I think Arms Warrior is still better in Arenas, IMO, but I do need to play a lot more Arenas to have a grasp. That's why this tier list is for BGs. But for me, Protection Warrior is a very strong spec. It has stuns, it has damage, it has, of course, if you're playing versus a rogue or versus a fast melee hitting class, you're going to have a great time just by proccing revenge, and whenever you're doing revenge, you're going to wreck people up. Again, do I like the playstyle of Protection Warrior? It's debatable. I prefer Arms, or I prefer even Fury, but Protection Warrior is really one of those specs that are very nice to play in Wrath of the Lich King. So if you want to try it out, just try it out, and you might just not go back to the old ways. You might even play Protection Warrior in arenas. Fury Warrior, for me, it is, I would say B tier, but I'm gonna say C tier. Again, I think they don't have the tools as an Arms Warrior. Bladestorm is such a big ability, or even the stunts from Protection Warriors are very big and very good. I just think that Fury Warriors don't have the same tools. They have the damage if they are consistent and they are going to keep on the being on the target. They have some sort of healing reduction, but it is very gimmicky from what I've seen. It's not reliable as a Mono Strike effect. So for me, it's a C tier. I think damage alone is not enough to be warranting a higher spot. It doesn't mean that it's unplayable. It doesn't mean that you are just going to have to respec very quickly to Arms for protection. It just means that compared to other specs, I think it's you will have a better time by playing the other specs. Of course, if you love Fury Warriors, please do keep on playing that spec, because I do also love Fury Warriors. I just think in Wrath of the Lich King, they don't really get a lot of cool shit compared to Arms Warriors, for example. And yeah, that's just how it is, though. Until Mob and Mob Mists of Pandaria, it becomes a very good potent spec where you can have a lot of fun also in arenas. Arms Warriors, for me, it will be on the same spot as Protection Warrior, depending on your playstyle. If you prefer to play with a Bladestorm and be more flexible, it's flexible, but I guess you will need a healer to perform very well. While for example, Protection Warrior, if you don't have a healer, your damage and your stuns and your mitigation is enough to actually survive a lot of problems that you would maybe not survive as an arms warrior. But as an arms warrior, whenever you're going to have an overpower, mortal strike, and then a blaze storm, for example, you can destroy people like super well with with sweeping strikes, for example. You can do a lot of damage, and your 1v2 situations can be turned into a 1v1 very quickly because of a few good crits. Combat Rogue. I know it's the outlaw icon, but it is combat, and combat rogues are for me very gimmicky. Now I don't know if it's gimmicky enough to warrant a higher spot, because it does happen often whenever you're going to do a a kill streak. I don't remember the name. A killing spree. Excuse me. Whenever you're doing a killing spree, you're going to have a great time if it's a 1v1 and he gets like obliterated by a killing spree. But I think it's, again, it is because it's season 5. I'm going to rate it higher than usual. For me, it is in between. I think it's better than Assassination Rogue, because again, a killing spree on season 5, you're going to wreck people, right? But whenever you'll get you higher and higher resilience, whenever people know how to play against, and in BGs, again, if you're not 1v1, your killing spree can go everywhere. That makes it a bit difficult for you to actually kill people. Again, without killing spree, you are just a sub rogue, but worse, without shadow step, without preparation, without shadow dance. So it really depends on the playstyle. I think you can still have a lot of fun with it. Maybe I do rate it a bit higher. I think I'm going to put it in B tier, and Assassination Rogues maybe around the lowest levels of B tier. Because A tier, they compete with Feral, Arms Warriors. I feel like it's not better than them, or at least not on the same level. So for me, it's a B tier. I'm not going to add more tiers to have separation, because I could do that, but again, I think it's better like this. Blood Decay. So I'm excited. I love Blood Decay. Do I rate it in BGs more than in arenas? I do not, because again, it ramps up. It's very strong in longer fights. But in BGs, whenever you're going for a 1v3, 1v2 situation, or even a 1v1, if you cannot ramp up, your damage is not very high, or at least it will stop like around 5, like I would say after 3-4 death strikes that you're going to do eventually, you will have a lot of hard strike potential, because you're going to convert those death runes, and whenever those runes are converted to death runes, you can spam hard strike all the time. And whenever you do 6 hard strikes in a row and you have enough haste and enough armor pen, you can do a lot of damage, but you need to ramp up. And if you don't ramp up, then at that moment, is it that strong? And for me, just for that reason, I think it's better than Fury, because again, you're tanky. You could also take the flag and running down. With a healer, if you're playing a good tanky build, you can really be annoying to kill. But again, you need to ramp up, and that's why for me it's a B tier spec. It's not bad. It could be very close to Fury Warriors, but for me, Fury Warriors are really not useful, I would say, even utility-wise. While a Blood Decay, it is for me very useful, because you can still grip, you can still silence, you can still you can still, again, self-sustain yourself very easily as well. And you have diseases, you have dots, you have so much components that by itself, I think Blood Decays are very fun. And compared to Fury Warriors, they are more utile to the environment, to the group, right? All right, Frost Decay for me, it's an A tier spec. I really love it, because you have CC, you have a huge CC. You have also unbreakable armor. You have Leechborn, because I think a lot of specs will have Leechborn. But you have a lot of great things, and I think Howling Blast, whenever you get the glyph of Howling Blast that gives you the diseases, you're going to be very good in AV, because to be honest, in a team fight, whenever you're doing a Howling Blast, you will have a lot of dots and your damage will be very high. But also you're going to be very good in Warsong Ghost, because a CC well placed can really disturb them. RLT based as well. Your 1v1 situations are very good. I think it becomes a bit harder whenever you're going to face a second one because your self-sustain is very low compared to, for example, unholy decays that have better magic resistance, magic damage reductions, or blood decays that can heal themselves. A frost decay is very, very squishy. Although it can be seen as a tank spec because you can play tank as a frost decay, although I think blood decay is probably the best tank spec that you can play as just DK in general. It is not tanky. So again, it's glass cannon. It does a lot of damage. I think I just do value the CC very high in BGs. So for me, it's an A tier spec. I think in arenas, it could be swapped. I think blood decays are very strong. I think a bit underrated, especially if you're playing with a healer or you play with a second DPS, which you could. It could be very, very fun, also very, very active. Unholy Decay for me is a S tier spec, very good versus healers, versus magic users in general, and Wrath is one of those expansions where you will play versus a lot of elemental shamans, you will play versus a lot of fire mages, frost mages, even arcane mages, shadow priests, warlocks in general. So I think as an Holy Decay, you will have a good time. You have the CC with the ghoul, you have a gargoyle burst moment that you can really burst someone down very easily. It's very annoying to disrupt the DK because all the damage is coming from diseases, from your pets, and then you have your damage on top of it, so you can really do a lot of damage without people being able to play against, right? Fire Mage for me it's a S tier spec. It does crazy AoE damage. The potential of Fire Mage is unlimited in BGs because again, it's not like in arenas where you're going to get chased down by the opponent. You're kind of free in BGs. As a caster, you're going to have a great time. I feel like with Firebomb, with the great damage from Pyroblast, Fireblast also doing a lot of damage, even sometimes Fireball whenever you have the time to cast it. I think it's a very good class. And just in general, I think it's very fun. I'm kind of jelly sometimes to not have a Fire Mage. But having a Fire Mage, I think you can have a lot of fun with it. So I recommend you guys to play Fire Mage. Frost Mage, the same. I think all the mage specs I'm going to put because I'm going to talk about it like directly. I think mages are very, very good in BGs compared to retail, where mages are not that great in BGs because they do need to ramp up a bit, or they are playing around the 1 minute CD with Shadowlands Combust. That's not a 1 minute CD, but it's close to 1 minute. It's just a different playstyle. I think Arcane, excuse me, this is not balanced mode. Arcane mages are very, very fun as well. They have a great slow. They do a lot of damage. Arcane Blast is insane if you have the time to actually cast it and nobody's focusing you. Arcane Mirage is something you're going to pop every 2-3 seconds and you're going to kill people. Arcane Missiles also a lot of damage. I feel like it's really a very fun spec. Those 3 specs are very good. I would recommend mages if you would like to find a great BG hero, and that BG hero could be the mage. Retribution Paladin, I think it's a 8-tier spec. For the good reason is they can really self-sustain themselves. They can be very annoying to kill. They prove themselves very strong whenever they have a great stun lock. Whenever they do the Hammer of Justice and you have nothing to go out of that, they can burst you down. And Wings is something that is very hard to deal with if you don't have a Dispel or a Spell Steal from a mage. It does trade off the defensives from the Paladin, but whenever the Paladin does Wings, you will have to run away because you cannot face tank that. Wings reduces 50% of mitigation from yourself, so resilience is reduced, but also your armor is reduced, everything is reduced. So if you have like 20%, or I would say, imagine you're a shaman, you have 45% physical damage reduction. It is not 45% versus a Wings Paladin that is going to pop off. That's going to be halved, and whenever it's going to be halved, you will be feeling like a caster, and whenever you're feeling like a caster, a Divine Storm is going to hit for a truck. So that's why I think Retribution Paladin is an 8-tier spec. I do play it. I am maybe a bit biased, but I really really like it though. Holy Priest, I think it's the only priest spec that is actually I'm not going. I'm going to rephrase it. It is the spec that is actually alright in BGs, but very bad in arenas. Just for that reason, I think it's a B tier spec. I think in BGs you can handle yourself. You also have quite a lot of damage with Holy Fire and such. Although it's not the same, you're not going to build towards that. It depends, but I think you're alright in BGs. You're not the best healer at all. I think you're the worst actually. But you're a healer, and I think as a healer you are just an asset. If people are playing versus healers while not having healers, you're going to lose regardless of how good you are or how bad you are. But if you have a healer in your group, depends about the specs, of course. It doesn't matter if it's a holy priest or a disc priest because you have a healer, and that's always something that you can have that the enemy maybe doesn't. So that's why for me I do rate it average. Is it bad? In my books, it is not great, but I would prefer a holy priest compared to any other DPS. Doesn't matter S tier or not. I would trade off a DK for a holy priest every time of the day. So I think that does mean something. I think by itself, if I need to rate it, I would say all healers would be S tier, even above, because all healers are really needed to win BGs. Holy Paladin, S tier, very, very strong. I think just in general, they are really going to be tough to deal with because nobody is going to spam Dispel for Sacred Shields. And Sacred Shields is really strong if you're not going to dispel. So that's why Holy Paladins are very strong versus, like, for example, Resto Druids, because they cannot dispel it. So there's always that. And versus a Resto Shaman or a Disc Priest, it becomes a bit harder in arenas because again, their matchup in their win condition is actually to dispel your Sacred Shields. And your win condition is to actually spam Sacred Shields. And the same for BGs actually, but in BGs, nobody's really dispelling. Or they are dispelling, but it's always whenever it's a 1v1 situation, but they're not going to think about dispels whenever you are like team fighting, right? Disc Priest, S tier as well, very, very strong. Again, they have alright, like minimum damage, but I think the best thing you have is pain suppression. You have, of course, PI, you have the heals, you have barriers. Again, think as a Disc Priest, you're going to have a lot of fun in PvP in Wrath of the Lich King, like regardless. So that's why for me it's a S tier spec. Rest of Druids, I think it's A tier. Again, that's a healer where you need to ramp up a bit. So you need to put all your hots, and then you become really annoying to kill. But if you don't have hots on yourself, and someone is going to sheep shot you, kidney shot you, and then try to kill you, it becomes a very, very hard situation where you are and you will have to spend a lot of GCDs to actually catch up, and sometimes it is not catchable. Of course, with gear it becomes better, but at season 5 the gear is not very high, the resilience is not very high, so you will still die to a cheap shot kidney shot combo where the rogue is going to spam ambush. So yeah, that's my take about Resto Druid. Elemental Shaman, top dog. I think Elemental Shamans are really the classes where you need to watch out in BGs. If you're playing versus like 2 Elemental Shamans in one BG, it is very tough because it can kill you in just 3 or 4 spells. Lava Burst is insane. I have a friend of mine, we did some BGs, he was level 75, and he already hit a Lava Burst for 7k. 7k without having a level 80 PvP gear, without actually fighting people that are actually like that's insane. I don't have words. Like, I think the scaling is so strong that whenever you get gear and you get better, I think your lava bursts are going to hit truck. Of course, there's a point where in further seasons your lava burst is going to hit for very much, but in season 5 again, resilience levels are very low, so you can really burst people down with your elemental shaman. Balance route, I think it's the same. Left alone, it is a powerhouse. Not everyone is going to spam stuns whenever they see a starfall, and I think just having starfall and you're not going to stun, to get stunned. I think it's like a win condition where everyone is going to die, and that's very very fun as well. So that's why for me it's a S tier spec. Resto Shaman, I think it's a very very good spec in BGs. For me, it's a A tier spec. It has the annoyance of having a shield, and whenever you have a shield, your physical armor is higher, so your damage reduction is also very high, and it just becomes very very hard for people to deal with. And for me, Resto Shamans is also very very good in team fights. Your chain heal, Reptide, your healing for a lot. Whenever you have a lot of crit, you're going to proc that talent all the time. That gives you maximum health, which is insane. So Resto Shamans, a very good spec. I think Shamans in general are very, very nice. Let's talk about Enhancement Shaman. I think for me it is between A and B. I think I'm going to put it in A because I don't want to discourage people. But it's a spec where 1v1, 1v2, you're going to decimate people. But whenever you're going in team fights, the problem is you have not a lot of time to actually do whatever you can do to survive the damage. So that's why in team fights you're not very very good. But whenever you're going for example, try to retake a base, try to take the flag, try to defend the flag, all those things, I think enhancement shamans are very very good. Is it better than elemental shaman? I don't think so, but I think it's better than a few specs, a few classes. And for me, it deserves the A spot. You just see in BGs, everything is really kind of viable. Even Fury Warrior, really. I don't think there is a D tier spec. From what I've seen, like now we have Warlock specs and the Shadow Priest. Let's talk about Shadow Priest real quick. I think Shadow Priest is, again, a A tier spec. I think it could be very, very high, like S tier, but I think the problem is... it's not like Elemental Shaman. You're not going to delete someone. You're going to delete them a bit slower, and that's for me a tier spec then. Warlock spec, I will say Affliction and Destruction are S tier. Let's see, I'm hiding a lot of things, so I'm going to move it. All right, so Destruction and Warlock for me are S tier. They are very, very good. They are very, very nice. They do a lot of damage. They are also annoying to kill. And Destruction Warlocks, they can just delete you if you just have the time to set. If you are seduced, you're dead pretty much. If you have no one to help you, or if you don't have a trinket, or you don't have damage reduction, I mean, the chaos bot is going to come up. But then you have incinerate and you have conflag, and those spells are really hurting you. And Shadow Fury is instant. So whenever you feel like Dark Fury, whenever you feel like you're going to be safe and you're going to one-shot people, they're going to stun you and then do a chaos bolt from nowhere with a lot of haste, and you're going to get deleted. So for me, it's a very very good Warlock spec. Destruction and Affliction. Affliction is so annoying to play against because you cannot really dispel yourself or your teammates. Whenever you dispel, you're going to get silenced, and it does a lot of damage. So for me, they are very good. I think it's really on par with the other classes. I think in BGs, in general, classes are very good. You see, nearly all the classes are either A tier or S tier. And I think the only one that I would rate a bit lower, it would be Demolition Warlock. I think Demolition Warlock is not gimmicky. You can make it work. But the problem is you are playing around a 3-minute city. But you have procs that can give you Soulfire and do a lot of damage, and that could be very fun. But again, I feel like it's really cheesy also a bit, and that's why for me it's B tier. I think you can have a lot of fun with Demolition Warlock whenever you're playing Destruction or Affliction and you're a bit tired. I think Demolition Warlock could be fun, but I think I'm not going to see myself, for example, play all the time Demology because it is just not as viable as, let's say, Destruction or Affliction. So this is my tier list for BGs. You just see I have nothing in D tier. I have only one spec in C tier. So basically all the specs, all the classes are really, really playable. I think I just wanted to rank all the specs in the classes for BGs, because I will make a tier list for arenas, for 2v2 and 3v3. I would even say 5v5, but I need to play more arenas to have a grasp. I have a small grasp about the meta, but I think I need to play versus a lot more people. I need to play versus a lot more geared people that know how to play to actually get myself into the meta and to know 100% what I'm going to offer you as a video. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. You will see the other tier list coming up as well, about Wrath of the Lich King, but also for Dragonflight. Whenever Dragonflight is going to come out, you will see a lot of tier lists about everything, but also guides about the classes I'm playing, the specs that I'm playing, other videos. If you have suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will respond to you very quickly. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and be sure to be safe. We will, of course, see each other on the next video. Have a great day. Bye.